Yo, welcome into another episode of Between the Hedges. Glad to be back on tonight with you guys. Thank you, everyone who continues to watch and who tunes in and who will watch this at any point. If you're on now, welcome. What's up? How are you doing tonight, Dad? Glad to be on.
Doing good. It's another great day to be a Georgia Bulldog.
It's always a great day to be a dog. There's so many reasons, so many things going on that you can be happy about. So here we
And it's
are.
here we are in the off season, but are we really in the off season? It's just a different form of the season. It's
Yeah,
recruiting, portal season, coaching carousel season, all the above, right?
right. Plenty of stuff going on. Doesn't even feel like football has ended, even though the problem is
The games have, but
the game.
not the behind the scene games.
Exactly. Um, so let's jump in. Got a little we got some news here. So let's go on the UGA coaching update. Let's go with that first. We got a we got a new coach on the staff.
Yeah, new co-defensive coordinator, DB slash DB coach, Tavares Robinson. He comes to UGA from uh Alabama. Went over there and Kirby after Saban retired, Kirby went over there like an assassin and just plucked the best recruiter not named Saban from them and hired him off. And it's kind of a weird story over the weekend. You know, you get announced that he's coming, and then there was some speculation that, well, not speculation, there were reports that Alabama was meeting with him again to try to, woo him back and, get him back over the weekend. And finally, reports have come out saying he's made his final decision and he's going to stick with the decision to come for Georgia. And what that means for Georgia when you hire that coach, somebody's got to, you got to make room. There's only a certain number of coaches you can have. So that means Will Muschamp, the the previous co-defensive coordinator on the staff, is basically taking a step back to be spend more time with his family and enjoy his you know sons that are playing college football. Um, and he's going to be in the role of an analyst, a defensive analyst for us. So, I mean, he's still helping out. You're still going to have his mind, his experience, you know, pushing the game plans and all that stuff. He just can't be an on the field coach. He can't go out recruiting off campus and stuff like that. But, when the guys come to campus, believe me, he'll be right there, you know, repping the G.
So how many now would you say that are elite coaches on this brain trust that
Well,
UGA
just on the
has?
defensive side, you've got Kirby Smart, of course, defensive coordinator, defensive minded head coach. You
The
got
baby goat.
Glenn Schumann, who is the defensive coordinator. You have Will Muschamp, who was the co-defensive coordinator. You've got now Tavares Robinson is the co-DC. You got um,
And then Dell, the running back coach.
Oh yeah, I was just talking about the defensive side, but if you go to the offensive side, if you're talking about elite coaches, I mean, they all are basically. I mean, I don't think if you're not elite, you're not coaching for a UGA right now. You're just not.
I
They'll
mean,
find somebody else to do the job better and recruit better and all that kind of stuff. But I mean,
and all
Dell, Bobo, you know, um,
and all
ser-
these all these former
offensive
head
line.
coaches too.
Hmm.
Like, man,
Yeah, they've got a definite, brain trust for sure. A lot of experienced guys and a lot of guys that a lot of them. Shoot, we forgot to mention the tight end coach.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say next.
I mean, I'm
Hartley?
drawing a blank. Partly, yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of those guys, they're UGA alums. Obo is, Hartley is, uh, Muschamp is, Kirby is. So I mean, they talk about when they're recruiting, it comes easy for them or natural for them because they're talking about the school that they actually played for and went to. So I think that makes a difference.
And the sneaky, awesome part about this hire is kind of what I alluded to last time.
Yeah,
Maybe Caleb Downs might be on his way.
I mean, he's definitely more in play. It's definitely an intriguing situation because Caleb went to Alabama to play for the GOAT, play for Nick Saban. Nick Saban retires. Well, the guy that got him there and that was coaching him in DBs was Tavares Robinson. So
And
Tavares is now working for UGA. Caleb can enter the portal right now if he chooses. He hasn't come out and said if he's going to or not. There's no official announcement the last I've known. But um, and I mean, we don't know if he's going to or not. He may decide, you know what, I'm happy being in Alabama. I want to continue what I started here. And he could do that. Um, we'll just have to wait and see over the next couple of days or so. You know, I don't know what his timeline is, but he could make a decision one way or the other. And the thinking is that if he does decide to enter the portal, that Georgia or Ohio State would probably be the landing spot for him. And I think
which
Georgia's got as good a shot as any because now they've got his former coach on our on staff.
which I mean, if you're gonna then place a bet on it, I mean, your money's got to go on Georgia getting him because of his former coach being here now. But I mean, as far as like if I'm him and I'm looking at my options, I can A, stay at Alabama, still Alabama, at least um
Well, at least we think they're still going to be Alabama, what we think of Alabama. That's yet to be determined too. That's something he's got to weigh. But
right.
yeah, they're still going to have their talented players that Nick has accumulated, at least unless there's a mass exodus,
Which
from there.
I don't think there will be. I mean, there could be some guys leaving, of course, because that's going to happen to anybody.
Right. I
Any
think the biggest
change.
change is going to be when this next recruiting cycle and the cycle after that and the one after that, when you might see a little bit of difference between the players we're used to seeing Alabama get under Nick Saban as opposed to what they end up getting under DeBoer.
Yeah.
You know, there probably will be somewhat of a drop. I mean, you talked about it in one of our previous episodes about how Nick Saban just stacked recruit number one recruiting class after number one recruiting class after number one recruiting. I mean, over and over again over a 8 to 10 year period.
Well, he's 8 out of 17. He had number one.
Okay, 8 out of
The
17 years. The other times he was only 2 or 3. I mean, it wasn't like he was 27 those other years. I
yeah.
mean, he was doing top three classes every year, probably, if you go back and look at it. So with DeBoer, is he going to still be able to recruit at that level? Eight, every other year, a number one class? I
It's
don't
it's hard to
know.
it's hard to put that expectation on anybody other than
Right,
Nick or now Kirby.
right.
So
So instead of number one classes, he starts getting top 8, top 10. that means there's a difference, maybe a slight difference, but it's a difference. So that may be when you start to see a difference in the Alabama we see on the field, the team on the field.
And you will,
It,
and like I said, there's a narrow margin between top two. Well, there's a it's not a narrow margin, so there's a big difference on the field that you see, but it's like the type of players, it's like you're getting slightly different um ratings on these guys coming in and then development. So
and we don't
um
know what his development's like,
yeah, still
you
to be
know,
determined. 2 years at
right.
Washington and it looked pretty dang good.
Well,
That's
see,
at
a
Washington.
lot of those players weren't his recruited players. They committed and they were there prior to his arrival.
And that was under Patterson.
Uh,
No,
I can't remember, but
but
anyway, they weren't. I mean, he obviously got a lot out of the players that were left there for him,
right.
and he probably will because I would venture a guess that these are probably better players than he walked into when he walked into the job at Washington. Yeah.
100%. Outside of quarterback,
So
100%.
So, I mean, I can see, he's not a slouch. I can see him doing really good. It's just how's he going to replenish the cupboard, so to speak, as he works, you know, down the line and through the years.
Exactly. Um, just
So yeah, that could be some exciting news of Caleb Downs. I mean, there's a lot of eyes are watching what his decision will be, whether or not he enters the portal or not. If he does, it'll be nuts. It
some
will be nuts.
and some think, there's not real reporting on this, but there's some feeling in and around, both teams, Georgia and Alabama, that a decision could come this week to jump into the portal. I mean, it makes sense, a week after your position coach leaves, you're weighing your decision quietly, privately, but everybody kind of picks up on it, right? We're all reading the tea leaves here. Um, and who knows, we could have a decision to jump into the portal on Friday, which we would definitely update you guys on. So that would be fun and exciting because then you're really talking something for real. Right now, we're kind of speaking it into existence, and I'll take
We're
credit
just
for that.
speculating. We're just speculating, and we're hoping things break our way, the Georgia way, right?
That's the only way. So,
Yeah. So yeah, exactly.
um, the the weird thing about all of this, though, is Travarius getting re-interviewed by DeBoer and Nick Saban in Alabama. I know you touched on that, but I've never really
That was
heard.
strange seeing those reports come out over the weekend. I mean, you're like, oh wow, we hired one of Alabama's coaches, and I recognize his name. He's been around for a while. He's coached at a bunch of places, and I've heard about his recruiting abilities. That's he's really really good at recruiting. So yeah, I was like, yeah, and then you found out that that means Muschamp's taking a step back, but he's not leaving. It's not like he's on, he's not retiring and getting out of the game. He's just taking a step back. And then within 24 hours, you start hearing reports, oh, he may go back to Alabama. But you're like, what?
That's I just want everybody to understand how unique that is because
Yeah.
usually when I mean, just think of yourself and your own job. Okay, you sign whatever papers or commit however you do to your job, and then 24 hours later, your previous
No,
employer
it,
hires you,
no, it wouldn't
or
even be that. It'd be you found a better job, you thought. So you
right,
leave, you accept the position at another job, and then
your
within
previous
the same day,
employer,
the one you left just calls you back and tries to up the ante and make you a good enough offer that you can't refuse, and you come back to them.
right.
That's
So it's
that's
like
str-
that's just weird.
yeah.
But thankful. Travarius, we love you. We're glad to have you already. I can see big things here, so glad to glad to do that. So a little bit of shakeup on Georgia staff, and
And that's on top of the other new coach that we hired from USC, the DB coach.
right.
So coaching DBs, you got, I think his name is Davis, if I'm not mistaken, the new coach from USC. I'm not
Hmm.
100% sure about that. But then you got T Rob, and you know that's Kirby's specialty too, is DBs. So,
Like,
I mean, you
so
come,
if you're a defensive back out there and you're
mm,
in high school, where are you wanting to go now? I mean,
you-
it's almost a foregone conclusion, like it was for Alabama all
I
these
mean,
years.
you want to make it to the league and you want to learn how to play defensive back. Yeah, there's about one choice.
Yeah. So that should bode well for these upcoming classes. I know we just signed the 24 class, so um, just that's very exciting. There's also just a real quickly to touch on a couple of other names because of the DeBoer fallout, DeBoer leaving Washington. Well, that left the opening at Washington. That's now been filled by Arizona's coach, Jed Fish. So he took that job, which I just saw an interview with Scott Van Pelt where Jed Fish was, it's the classic, I'm all about Arizona. I'm so glad this was my dream job and all of that. He literally said all of that. I'm not quoting him, but that's what he was saying.
Mhm.
And ooh, new shiny new opportunity, boom, gone. I mean,
Go Huskies.
and he puts on the Husky hat just like DeBoer put on the Alabama hat and pumps up the Alabama basketball crowd. Go look on that. That
Yeah.
did happen. So it's just funny, this new age of coaching carousels and the portal and transfers. It's nuts. It's absolute nuts, madness, whatever you want to call it. And then so to replace Arizona's coach, Arizona went into San Diego State? No, San Jose State's coach Brennan. So that's a big promotion for him, so to speak.
Right.
Big D1 coaching job in an Arizona program that Fish had moving in the right direction. So again, you just get to walk into a ready-made situation. It's not like walking into Alabama, but the
Well, it
table's
just
set
goes
for you.
back to it goes back to the domino effect we were talking about when we found out DeBoer was coming to Alabama. We're like, okay, let's see how how the ripples go out and who's going to be affected. And every single one of these schools now are going through what Alabama are. They will be going through what Alabama's currently going through, where you know every one of their players on the roster has the option to say bye bye, find another home if they so choose.
And I'm glad you mentioned that too. There's a Alabama linebacker that just committed to Texas. So, it's there's a ton of movement. It's a fun time. For those out there that think that football is dead right now, it's not. There's plenty going on. And just
Well, I think
watch,
another thing that's happened recently with Alabama is they've lost two five-star wide receivers in the last few days.
and it went to Texas, one of them.
I don't think the one has announced where he's going. He's still a high schooler, one of the ones I'm talking about.
He was
And
a
I think he's
signee.
choosing between Alabama and Auburn mainly. So chances are he's probably going to Auburn now since he decommitted. He was a committed and he opened his recruitment back up, but everybody's thinking he's probably just going to Alabama because that was I mean, Auburn, because I think that was his second option previously. But it's just, crazy the way all these, dominoes just fall when you have these coaching changes and stuff nowadays.
Absolutely. I mean, every time you get a commit, every time you're recruiting a kid now, this is part of it. And you got to like you said before, re-recruit them every off season, every spring after spring practice. I mean, you got to constantly be checking in. It's a very
I don't see
cumbersome
how it's
job now.
long-term sustainable for these coaches. That's another conversation for another day, but these college coaches, I don't see how they're going to be able to keep up with this long-term.
Well, Kirby's at the forefront of that too. He's been outspoken about that numerous
Yeah.
times
And
already.
and they don't have a choice. I mean, it's not like they can just, oh, if you want to leave, leave.
They got to keep.
They got to keep the players they want to keep, They've got to do that. They've got to be concerned with NIL opportunities and, portal and high school recruits, and not to mention the team that they actually have on campus. So anyway, it's nuts these days. It's absolutely nuts.
Crazy times, but it makes it very fun and very interesting. So, of course, when the transfer portal and NIL became a thing, um, that ended up, you had a lot of differing opinions on that, but I think ultimately that's why we got it, is what I'm trying to say, is because it just makes it way more intriguing. And now betting college football is like betting the NFL almost. I mean, the NFL is still king, but you're getting to that point where it's just bleeding into each other, where it's just going to be, I'm betting football. Doesn't matter if it's pro or college. So, but yeah, definitely a conversation for another day because Kirby's talked about maybe there's got to be some, but he absolutely thinks there's got to be some regulations on it. So, and that would have to come from some governing body, which there isn't. Pretty much,
I guess we'll wait and see what happens.
right. Um, do we have any other recruiting news to
Yeah,
go
there. I
over?
mean, we can talk about some recruiting updates, I guess. Of course, the biggest thing that we touched on was, Caleb Downs. I mean, that's more portal. But besides that, um, the next biggest story probably going on, as far as recruiting for the next cycle, or next two cycle. Yeah,
We're in the 25 cycle
we're
now.
signing the 24, so we're in the 25 cycle now. So yeah, this next cycle, 2025 players, the big news in that is that Juju Lewis, the quarterback for Carrollton High School here in Georgia, he was a 2026 recruit, the number one overall player in the nation, rated on several recruiting services, has decided he's going to reclassify today. He announced this today. He's reclassifying to the 2025 class. And in the 2025 class, like on Rivals, he is now the number two overall player, but the number one rated quarterback in this class.
So
Even
that
though
could be
he's,
a big, big get for
oh,
Georgia.
yeah. And he's currently committed to USC. He had committed to USC as a 2026 recruit, and he's still committed to them. But there's an interesting set of dominoes that have fallen to make it to where people are thinking that the University of Georgia may just end up with him on their roster when it's all said and done. And it all goes back to Dylan Raiola, believe it or not, since he was in this 2024 class and he was committed to Georgia. Um, People would say that Julian Lewis wasn't all interested in following Dylan Raiola and having to sit and wait his turn. So ends up Raiola flips his commitment to Nebraska. He's not on our roster now. Now Juju has decided to reclassify to the 25 class, and uh, Rail is not here. It's standing in his way, So he's, oh, then the reports I've seen is that he's at least listening to other opportunities other than USC. And a lot of people with close ties to him are saying that they like where Georgia sits in this recruitment. So that is huge, huge news. I mean, you're talking about taking the number one quarterback in this next class off and getting him to be a part of your team. That's always good news for your team and big news just in general.
Let me jump in here real quick. What does that say about Lincoln Riley and USC? I think there's kind of been some smoke there with USC. It's kind of they took a turn this season, and with the unquestioned, number one pick in the draft at quarterback, now the rest of the roster is not quite there, but it's better than when uh, Lincoln got there. But now you lost a coach off your defensive staff to Georgia. You've already lost a wide receiver to Georgia, one of your top receivers. You're potentially about to lose a top recruit to Georgia. And
I
it's
mean,
just like,
I think it says more about Georgia and their staff and the way they recruit these kids, and they never give up. I
yeah,
mean, he was a 2026 recruit and he was being committed since last August to USC. And he comes out today and reclassifies to 25. And the other big news that he, you know, said when he let this news out was he set up an official visit. I believe it's an official visit. I can't remember if it's official or unofficial, but his first visit as a 2025 recruit, he'll be in Athens on February 3rd, that weekend. So, I mean, the ducks are lining up in a row. If you're reading the visits and reading its actions and seeing what's going on and around him and stuff, things are lining up to where it looks like Georgia's sitting in a pretty good spot to flip his commitment. So
that's incredible.
that would be huge, huge news.
Yeah, it
Other,
it
go
does
ahead.
speak to Georgia's staff too, but I just the reason I asked that about Lincoln is just because it just kind of feels like it's maybe not going as well or going to plan for them out there. So just keep an eye on that too,
I
because
agree.
Lincoln gets restless.
But even with Lincoln when he was at Oklahoma, it's the same MO with him. His offenses are out of this world. He scores buku points. He
But the
gets
offense wasn't even
quarter.
that great this season when you look at it. But yeah, you're right.
I mean, the
I mean,
defenses just struggle because they're put in bad positions, and he's not a defensive coach.
right.
And in the Big 12, they don't really play a lot of defense, and I think you can say the same for the Pac-12. That's so.
Outside of Washington and Oregon? No, not really.
Well, Dan Lanning is changing that for Oregon because he came from the
Georgia
University of Georgia in the
and
SEC.
and Alabama.
So that's what he does.
No.
So
But go ahead. I wanted to
yeah,
just kind of
that's a
throw
good
that
point.
out there.
And speaking of all the turmoil in Alabama and stuff like that, they have a guy that was committed until today he backed off his commitment um, to Alabama as a 2025 recruit. His name is Mason Short. He's out of Evans High School in Evans, Georgia. 6'7", 295-pound offensive tackle.
Dang.
Um, Rated in the top 100 players on Rivals. Um, Four-star recruit. Like I said, until this morning, he was committed to play for Alabama. And Nick Saban's retirement totally threw a wrench in those plans. Um, and um, the reports I've read on him is, he backed off his commitment. He's been in Athens several times, but most recently over the weekend he was in Athens, and it just so happens that today he backs off his pledge to the Tide, and lo and behold, Kirby's making high school visits today, and where does he go? He brings the chopper out and flies over to Evans High School and lands, and he goes visits Mason Short today. That's how the recruiting is done, right?
Yeah, you
So
can kind of
you
read
read
the
those
tea.
tea, yeah, you read those tea leaves. I'd say Georgia's probably gonna be the favorite to land his commitment once he decides, uh, you know, his next school, whoever that's going to be. But it looks like it's going to be UGA, and that will be a big. You can never have too many big boys up front doing the job on the offensive line or defensive line. So it's good to see if he does end up doing what it's looking like, and at some point committing to the University of Georgia to come play for us.
Come on, bring them on. Let's go. I just love. I don't have to know these kids' life story, but like it's cool to like read about and learn some of that, some of their background.
What's
But
coming down the pipe?
right, but just to hear that there's so many considering Georgia, it just makes me excited because it's the more you get, the better this roster is, the better the team will be, and the better chance that you have to have that continued success like we just saw at Alabama for 17 years. So Georgia's only in what year 8, year 9, something like that of Kirby. So it's there's still a lot to come, and it's very exciting.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, yeah, that's a couple of key things that are going on the recruiting front for Georgia right now. Um, and we'll always keep an eye on that and try to keep as updated as we can on what's happening.
Yeah, that's our job, right? Well, that's just what we like to do right
It's our
now.
hobby. We
All
like
right.
it. We
I
enjoy
treat
doing it.
I treat it like a job, so
There we go.
I enjoy this. So, um, well, I think that's, pretty much it. Do you have any final thoughts tonight, or are we?
Um, Final thought that I want to point out is let's not sleep on the Georgia men's basketball team.
Mhm.
Over the weekend, watched them play University of Tennessee, and that was just an exciting game that they played in Athens. And honestly, don't remember the last time I saw a game where the fans were that into it, and the place was just electric. And going from, gosh, I think Georgia was like 14 points down at one point or something like that, 15 points down. And in the second half, they built it up to where they had like a 10 or 11 point lead at one point.
Mhm.
And of course, Tennessee being the fifth ranked team in the nation, they fought back tooth and nail and grinded and They ended up pulling out the win. Tennessee did, but that was a heck of a game. And I think me and you were texting back and forth during that game. And the thing I said to you, and I mean, is they're just a fun team to watch this season. It's
Mhm.
fun watching them play. So don't sleep on them. They're playing again tonight, actually. They're playing at South Carolina right now. The game is going on as we're speaking. And early in the first half, Georgia's got an 11-10 lead right now on the road. We know it's not easy to win on the road anywhere in the SEC. So it's 11-10 type ball game. Hopefully they can have another good showing and pull this win uh, out of the bag tonight. And if they do, that means they'll be 3-1 in the SEC. Only loss would be to Tennessee. Um, so yeah, that's my final thought. That's one thing that I think I'm gonna enjoy watching the remainder of the season and see how far those guys can make it this year.
Yeah, I'm right there with you because basketball is right up there with football as far as enjoyment for me personally watching, playing. Um, so that was definitely exciting to see. Wish I could have been there. I'm gonna try to get to one this season and I have not been to one in several years, so that's saying something. Kudos and to Mike White and his staff for getting Georgia back to um, a respected basketball program because that's where they're headed. And I
Yeah.
think Lenardi's got them on the first four out right now.
No,
Um,
they were before the last I'd seen off it before Saturday's game. I didn't see any updates since then, but they're on the cusp. They're definitely in the conversation, and that speaks volumes because I mean we were nowhere near anybody's conversation of making a tournament the last few years before Mike White got here.
well, in preseason, I don't think we were picked to, we
No,
weren't,
we weren't.
nobody thought we'd win our first three out of our first four SEC games and win 10 in a row during the season. So it's already been a success, but I think there's more to come here. So
Yeah, I think preseason we were picked like 11th or 12th in the conference. That's what we were, out of the 14 teams.
and we're trending to finish in the top half easily.
If we keep playing, keep winning, yeah.
So that's that's very good. There's a lot more experience on that team now too. So it's not he's not doing it the Kentucky way per se. Taking kind of a page out of Tennessee's book and going more experience. Um, so yeah, that was exciting to watch. Like I said, hopefully I get to one. And I haven't really, not that I didn't like, their previous coach or anything like that. It just wasn't that exciting. The
It
product
just wasn't
wasn't,
on the radar, you
no.
know. It just was not on anybody's radar. So
So, well, appreciate it. Thanks for hopping on with me tonight. Thank you, guys. I saw we had a few watching live tonight again. So look, it's much appreciated. We do this for fun. It's been a lot of fun every single time. That's why we're gonna keep doing it. So any and everything Georgia, we'll keep you guys updated. Hopefully we're back on here Friday night talking about Caleb Downs being in the portal and on the cusp of making a move to Georgia because that would be a big, big announcement. So
yeah, big coup.
thank you for tuning in tonight and whenever you may do that. As always, we want you, if you like what we're doing, give us a like, follow us, hit the alert so that you know when we're on. And yeah, everybody take care, and we will see y'all again on Friday. As
As always,
always, go
go to
dogs.
dogs.